Okay. Hello, I'm Zach. I'm a production developer working in care office. Generally, I work in commercial interior projects such as like panel frame, work surface, and cabinets. In this Undo session, it will be breaks down into three main topics. I will start with the overview of Undo in CT, and then I will show how to do undo in codes. And I also will share the debug undo tips and tricks. And then I will take the Q&A session at the end. Let's get started. Undo is a standard but essential feature in any software. And CET, we have the undo and redo features that allow user to like go back to a previous state or come to the next state when maybe they are making some mistake or they want to go back to the previous state of the work. So in CT, undo system lives in the core code base. It's in the CM core undo. A word has undo chains and undo chains has a finished step. And there are generally generalized to approach that make this to work. Basically, they are copies of objects and a record of reversible actions. I'll show that in code real quick. So in Word, there is an undo change. Every word will have one undo change, and undo change is being init when a word is created. You can see here. And a undo change will have a undo stack and a redo stack. When undo change is being constructed, it has a limit. It has a default limit of 60 steps. It means here is that when a user when the user work in a drawing, they do a lot of different steps already, and then maximum undo step they can do is 60, and redo is half of it. So let's see in CT. So I have these simple tables here. This table is basically a very simple table. There's no undo things that going on in the class itself. So when you work on let's say a table as your product, you be able to insert it, and then if you do like move it around, rotate it, stretch it, and you do like a quick properties change, and you can see that all these are being undoable. All this come with free. Usually you don't have to do things with undo if you only do the standard operations. And how is that work? So we have this undo change that could show you that what is being recorded. So just now I was inserting a table, and then I was moving it around by moving around, and then I rotate it, I move it, I rotate it, I stretch it, and I make modification in the quick properties. And all these are being recorded without have to do anything. It's because core has done most of the undo recording for example, in the move animations, in the rotate animation and stretching animations. If you can see here, so in most of the user standard operations that they can do, for example, align, move, insert, in the core or abstract code we have already done that. So if you are doing by a standard operations, you don't have to care about the undo because it's all being taken care, and is already being done in the code unless you're doing a new animations or you do a new action step out of the standard operations, then you need to do your own undo. So what is how does it work in the operations? You can take a look. For example, if you insert a table and then I move it, say I dump the undo change. Here you can see that it record insert in the insert animation, and then it has a drag animations that record the undo move operations. So it means that you insert a table, and then this is the original position, and then now you are in this current state. So if you do an undo, then you dump this undo again. So you basically go back to the previous state, and this is the later positions. So if you do a redo, then you come back to this position. I'll share a bit more in the later in the next slide. So as I showed just now, the undo change has a undo stack and a redo stack. So two of them are just like a list of undo step that the user can perform. In each of the undo stack, there is a list of undo step, and each undo step has a list of operations. So in the code, so our undo stack will have a list of steps. A step will contain each of the steps that the user can go back, and a step in here, it means to the user point of view, when they click on the undo, what is they will go back to the previous state. So an undo step can have like a lot of operations. So let's say user for user they are only do one action from A to B, but in between it can contains a lot of operations. But for user, what they will see and they will get in CT will be from a step to another step. So a step can contains like a move operations, insert operations, that are a lot of things. But for user, it will be like a step back to the previous state, or a step go back to the next step. So I have already showed just now how to dump the undo info, but if you want to do in the code, you can put in this line word.undo check.debug, or in the UI, you can go to this debug here, and there's a dump undo info here, or you can also go to the monitor extension. There's also a dump undo here. I make it simple I put it here so I don't have to go to different places, but you can find in here and also the monitor extensions. So what you can see in the dump undo, let's say, let's do it again. Insert, rotate, move, maybe stretch animations. So this is very helpful to understand that what are the steps that you can undo and what is happening in between. So let's say I do some step here, I move it, rotate it, and also stretch it. Then you know that when you perform a undo, when a user perform an undo, it will go back to this state. So it will back to the state before the stretch happening. So if I do undo here, double it again, so you can see it will go back to the position will move. And if a user do redo, then you will go to the stretch animation. So now it go back to the previous state that before the stretch is happened. So this is very helpful when you want to debug a problem when once you do undo, something goes wrong or something doesn't happen. Then from here you can check like, is the undo being recorded, or what is the events that happen before you come to this state or next state. So this is very helpful to trace the undo positions. Next, we'll go to how to do undo. Undo in CT, they are divided into two main way to do the undo. One is undo recording, and the other one is serious undo. So we'll start with undo recording. So the standard protocol to do a undo is that you're going to tell the world that you want to begin an undo step, you want to start a new step, and then you want to start recording here, and what are the affected snapper that you want to include into the undo, and then ends it and end undo step. So whatever happened inside the undo step, it will be one undo click for the user. So whenever I mention about one undo step, it means that when a user click this one, is our undo step being reversed. And this is like a step, go to the next state. Right, let's see how it works, how to do that. So I have this table again, and then let's say I have animations that I want to rotate this table using animations. So this animation is very simple. In here, I have this rotate snapper animation G2. What it do is that I just want to rotate the candidate to like minus 90 degree. So this is the thing that I want to do. And this animations is all extend back to animation G2. So you can do a lot of, you can have your own customized to animations, but the Corel doesn't know that what is being changed and how to react to it. So if you make a animations and you just want to do you make some changes to the snapper without telling the space that, oh, I want to record an undo, then let's say just now I will have make modifications. When you perform an undo, it doesn't happen. It doesn't know. So let's try it again. So I make a modifications. When I try to dump the undo step, in here, it was not aware that the action is being performed in the animation. The world doesn't know that something has to be recorded. So if you check here, if you have a problem that animations you apply through animations and it was not in the undo change, then most likely because the specific action is not being recorded in the undo. So how to do that? So I have these animations that has the undo. It's the same rotate functions. So it does the same minus 90 rotations. And you come to here. So this is the one without undo. And this is the one with undo. So what you want to do is that you want to begin undo recording, and you want to say that this is a snapper that I am going to change. Please record the undo for this snapper, and you execute your actions here. In this way, I only do rotations. It can be a lot other actions that you want to record. Like let's say you want to snap to another snapper, or you want to change certain properties, then you can do a lot of execution here. And then you end with undo recording and undo step. So if you do like that, and then you dump the undo chain again, you see that in the undo chain, it will tell you that in these animations, we have recorded one snapper is being changed. And then it's undo. You can go back to previous state. So it's very simple to do an undo recording. You just have to start a step, start a recording, and notify and include the snapper that is going to change. So this is a protocol to do the undo recording. And serious undo. Serious undo serious undo take a snapshot of the before and after for the affected snapper. Serious undo step is best used when there is a step that has a huge number of undo operations or large numbers of snapper is being changed in a step. For if you want to do a serious undo, what you need to do is that you're going to tell the world begin a serious undo step, and then you put in a list of snapper that's going to be affect in this step. So let's say you're going to change, like for example, 3 snapper in here, then you have to put the affected snapper, which is 3 snapper into here. So it will record a snapshot of the state before the actions happened. And then once you have done with the executions, then you're going to put into the after state. So it's like a bit like taking photo. It has a before and after. It's like you take a snapshot of this the snapper that's going to change the previous state and the after state. So when user do the undo, it will just plainly go to the previous state and after state. There's no like operations is going on. So you don't see like insert operations or modify operations or things like that, because this is the taking snapshot. So it's taking the whole all the change snapper that's going to change the before state and after state. So how to do that? Okay, same table again. So I have this series undo animations. It's the same actions. I'm going to rotate it minus 90, and it's undoable. So let's look at the code. So in the code, I'm going to put in the snapper before the undo happened. So I'm going to put in candidate. Maybe this will affect some other candidates that around me. If they have like a connector one, then I will have a list of snapper before the change happened, put into the serious undo step, the before, and then making changes. And then after the changes, you're going to collect the snapper, the state. So you're going to collect the snapper so you know that what's happened after that and put into the serious undo. So let's look at how it looks like in the undo change. So in the serious undo step, you can see here there's no like operations. It will take a deep copy of all the snapper into the stack and be able to switch the state. So if you make an undo here and dump the chain again, then you can see it will this here. So it basically switch the snapshot. So it looks like in here I have shown how to do the undo recoding and serious undo. It seems to be like about the same, but how do we know that when we want to do undo recoding and when we want to do a serious undo? So as I mentioned just now, serious undo is best used when you have a lot of operations or a large number of snappers going to change in a step. But how does it make a difference? But like how does tell that when you want to use undo recoding and when to how does it make a difference? So I'm going to show that. So I have this little button here. This is a callback that will insert a lot of snapper into the space. I'm going to insert like 1,000 snapper into the space. So let's go back again. So here. So I have this callback that's going to do a undo recording and insert 1,000 snapper into the space by undoable insert. So let's do it. So it's being inserted into the space. And so this is a undo step that contains a lot of snapper, like 1,000 snapper. So it's considered as like a huge number of snapper that are going to change in the step. So when I try to do an undo, you can see that it takes a bit of time before it go back to the previous state. And let's do a redo. So you can feel like it's a bit slow, and we can also like check the time. So we can debug the undo time and redo time. You can enable that in the undo chain here, debug trace undo redo time. So that's where you can like have this one being shown. So for undo recording to insert 1,000 snapper and perform an undo and redo, both takes about 2 seconds. So let's see serious undo. So all is being insert, do undo, and a redo. So you can see that it's so much more faster using the serious undo. So if you're going to implement like a batch import, or you have one animations or one actions that's going to affect a lot of snapper in space, and if when you try to do the standard way undo redo is and it's taking longer time, then you can consider to use the serious undo. It's much more faster. Okay, modify notice. You often see this modify notice in the code. Try modify notice in the code. It was used to modify notice will be called when a field's value is about to change, and it does not include assignments in a constructor. So let's say you put in a snapper and you put a default value in the constructor, say that this is come with a height, it will not be recorded into the modify notice. And if you have a field that is ignore modify notice field, when this field is being changed, it will not be recorded. System will not record the change. And if you already have the modify notice return to true, then it will not be recorded again for the field. So how does it work? So let's see. So let's say I have a snapper, I change the properties, and I have this frame support. This is a field in the table, and this is let's see. So here I have Boolean here. This is not ignore modify. So whenever this is being changed, it will be recorded, and core has the default of the changing of the properties is being recorded in the core. So if I dump undo change, see that the core quick properties will know that property is being changed, and this particular field is not ignore modified. Then it will record it will put the snapper into the modify op and be able to do the undo. So when this properties change, I don't have to do anything because the core already handle. If the field is being changed, then it will be recorded into undo. So that is. So when do we need to like specifically do the modify notice? So let's take a new example. Same table, and then I have these animations to do something. So now I'm just changing the frame support. So if we look at the code for these animations. So now I'm just changing the frame, and I begin the step, begin and undo recording, but I don't have to do like a record for undo or try modify notice because this is a field that is in the candidate, and when a field is being changed, modify notice will be called, and then modify notice will tell the space that something is being changed. So let's go into the code first. So when a modify notice is being called, first it will check whether this snapper is alive or not. If the snapper is not is not active, then we don't want to record a change. We don't want to record an undo for this one. So in this space dot report change, in here, if the word has an undo recording going on, then it will include the snapper into the change. So basically include the snapper, say that this snapper is going to change, please record a state before the undoes, before the actions, before the change is happening. So if we go back to here, so I have something like this. There's no need to try modify notice or record for undo, and it will works because the call whenever a field is changed, is being handled. And then let's say in this table, so this test table has a test link. Test link is object, and then test link has a link type. So they have a rectangle link type and a cylinder link type. So this test view has properties that they can do. They can change the different link type, and test link is a sub object in the test table. This is not a snapper. This is just a property. So let's say in the animations, I am going to change the link type to cylinder type. So now you can see that this is a rectangle type. I use this one, change a cylinder type, white color. And then I want to do undo. Nothing's happened. It was zoomed out. And then undo again. It was back to about the frame, the change frame state. So if you do redo, you cannot go back to the state. It's because this leg and the leg type is a properties in the sub object. So when the properties of the sub object is being changed, the space, the word doesn't know that this snapper has changed because it's not a direct fields from the candidate. It's a fields belongs to a sub object in a snapper. So in this case, we will need to do the try modify notice before the change. So let's do it again. So put in the snapper, do this one. So yeah, it's being changed to white one. You do undo and undoable. The reason is because it's not the direct fields in a snapper, so the world doesn't know that something is being changed in the snapper, so it was not being recorded. So if you go to try modify notice, it basically check, is this snapper already modify notice? If it's not, then modify notice this. So it will go back to the same code that here, tell the space that you're going to tell the space, I am about to change, please include me in the undo, and then it will be recorded. So if you have a problem that you are doing a change and then the change is in the sub object, then most likely you need to call the try modify notice to notify the space that you are about to change. So please, it will be included into the undo step. So this is what I showed just now. Okay. So undo operations. So in CET there are a lot existing undo operations is in the CET. So if you like, let's do like a quick check. So they are like, it's all being done when you try to align, it's already done a undo move, and if you do something else, then you already have a lot of undo operations to handle most of the situations. But what about if you need to do your own undo, you want to create your own undo operations? So let's say you need to, you're making your actions and none of these undo operations is taking care of the thing that you wanted to store, the before state and after state, the actions that you want to record. So let's say you need to do your own undo operations, then how to do it? So you need to, if you have created your own undo operations, when you want to begin undo step, you can use like space dot begin undo step and append your undo operations here. So it will basically begin undo step and then begin undo recording and include your undo operations into the into the step, and then whenever it's done, and undo step. And then if you need to do the undo operations, there are two important methods that you need to look into, will be the restore and update and invert. I'll show that how to do that in the code. So same table. So let's say you have a checkbox in the library. This is a global functions. Your drawings can only contain either everything has a frame support or everything don't have the frame support. So you have a global setting, and you want to record the change of this global setting. So when you do undo, you want to go back to an unchecked state, and then things will happen like updating your snapper. So by default, if you only have the checkbox in here, and when this checkbox being changed, you have a callback to like update the state into the snapper, then this is not recorded, because by standard, when you make changes in here, the core doesn't know that what needs to be recorded. In that case, you want to customize your own undo operations. So let's look at code. So I have this frame support checkbox, and when this checkbox being changed, it will call this set global frame support. So I have this boolean in the code that is going to be a global frame support. It's not belong to any snapper. It's a global fields. And then when I make a change to the global frame support, I'm going to set the value to globals, and then I want to update all the snapper in the space by its field. By default, there's no undo recording. That's why when you make a change here and you try to do undo, it was not being recorded. So for that, then I will want to create my own undo operations. So now I have the undo operations already. So let's see. I have this undo operations, and I want to include that, and to make sure that the change is being recorded. I'll show that demo first, and then I'll show the code. So have table, and then use this one. So you see that the frame is there. You make an undo, the frame is gone, and it's unchecked. So So how do I do that? So in this undo operations, I want to store the original value of this checkbox. So this is the original value, which a boolean. If you have like a other original value you want to store, for example, a drop down can be like a class or something, then you will need to like store the informations or the fields before the change happen. So here, for this case, the thing that I'll change is just the boolean. I want to store the original boolean in my undo operations. So when I create the operations, I want to store the original value before the change is happening. So when the change is happening, I already stored this one, and let's see. Just now I have that, right? So this one, I do this one, and then I dump the undo change. Let's see. So in here, it says that my previous state, my original value is false. This is the original value that I have saved. Let's say when I do a redo and I dump the undo chain again, then you can see that the next value will be true. So this is the only thing that I stored for this undo operations. I want to store the true and false. And then when the trues and false is being changed, the restore and update will be called. Then I want to update the library. I want to update the snapper. So that is done in the code. So my undo step. So where is it? Here, so this is where I store the original value. So when a user click the undo, it will come to this restore and update. So what I want to do is that I want to set the global frame to the original value, and then I want to rebuild the library. So when undo is happening, it will also create an inverse undo operation, which is the where this will be put into the redo stack. So I want to store a opposite state when I do an undo. So that's why you will see like this. A undo step is it will store opposite operations when undo is happening. So all these are being handled in the undo chain. So do again. Restore and update. So when undo happen, it will restore and update uh, based on the step that the user want to undo, and it will also where's the inverse? Restore and update here. Okay, when a step is being restored and update, it will also create a inverse operations on the situation on the operations. So in this case, it's very simple. You just take a full true and false. So so that's basically how you do it. And then they have other miscellaneous functions that if this change is going to affect the price, then you want to could modify the price. You want to put it through to make sure it was handled properly. So it's not that hard. It's quite simple. You just have to know that what are the fields that you want to record and what happened when you do the undo and create inverse operations when undo is happening. Okay. Okay. So I will go to the next one. So if you want to do a certain actions when undo is happen, it's not, let's say it's not your undo operations. You just want to when a certain thing or actions happen and it's being recorded undo and you want to do something. Let's say let's see an example. Register undo hook. So let's look at an example in CET. So alternative dialog it has a undo hook. So in here, when undo is happening and the step is going to affect the alternative, then the dialog want to do certain changes. So this is like one example that you want to perform. You want to register your own undo hook when step when undos happen that is beyond your controls. It's not your operations. It's not something that from your animations, but you want to do something when undo happen. Then you can register undo hook. You can find the undo hook in the undo change, then register it. You can find a few examples in the CT same base core as well. Thanks. So we'll share a bit about how to debug undo. One of the common undo problem is that the undo is not working. So it can be when a user changed a create properties, then it was not undoable. Then one thing you can check will be try modify on this. It might be you are changing a sub-object properties or sub-object properties. So it's not a direct change of the snapper. Then you need to call try modify on this to make sure the change is being recorded. Or if your create property is not updating, it can be also the fields is ignore modify notice. Then you have to reconsider why do you want to set this field to ignore modify notice. So for create properties problem, look at the modify notice or try modify notice. And if you have your own animations, you do actions in animations and it's not undoable, then you need to check before you apply or before you make changes, is there any undo step or undo recording is being done? If there's none, obviously the change is not recorded, so it's not undoable. And if you have a problem that saying that the calculation dialogues does not update when you do a certain actions, and it can be undo is not recorded, I'll show that. So let's go back to this checkbox again. So let's say I want to remove my undo again. This one undo, this one, okay, remove it. So I have a table, and if this table is without the frame support, it's going to cost like 80. And when I checked it, it's going to cost like 100. Okay, so let's do it again. So I use this one. I have removed the undo. So when I make changes, you can see that the frame is here, the price is here, but the price is not updating. So if you go into the price, you do like refresh, still not happening. You have to do like invalidate flash where you have to shift to do the refresh, then it's happening. So it in this case, it might be something that you can check is the undo being recorded, because when the undo recording is recorded and the code modify price is set to true, the price will be updated itself. So you put in this one, and then let's put back the undo. Okay, and then now it's originally come with the bracket and 100, and you see that the price is changing. So something you can look at when the calculation dialog is not happening when you do a certain actions, and you can check the undo. It might be not recording. So if another problem is that if you have too many undo steps, so let's say you do you use animations extend from a core animations, and the animation already handle its own apply functions. So let's say you're going to rotate the snapper, and then undo step is already ends in the abstract or in the core. So it's something that you can't like sneak in your own actions or undo step. Then you have to create your own undo recording and undo step. Then it become like many steps for a user to go back to a previous state, when for them it was just one action to go from state A to state B, and then when you want to undo, it's like taking more than one step. If that's the case, then you can use word dot merge undo step. So So you can merge, you can put in how many steps that you want to merge. In this case, you can, let's say the call somewhere in the code that's beyond your control, you can't make modification to it, has already a step, and then in your action step is also another step. So if you want to merge, then you can use this merge undo step, then you will basically put two undo step into one. Okay. So debug performance or a slow undo. So every modify operations has a deep copy of the snapper. So it can be very expensive if one undo step has a lot of change. So if you have like a lot of change, then you should consider to use series undo step for that. And if you are making a small change but it's still slow, then you should check your undo step. Are you only recorded the necessary change? Are you if you're going to move a snapper, you should only record the snapper before and after, not anything other than that. So you should make sure that you only record the necessary change and not something that is not important. So that will kind of like make it will have less deep copy in the undo modify operations that is being stopped. And if you have a field that is meant to be ignored, modified on this, so let's say graph snapper store a cache of graph, and that is not needed to, you do not have to like store the change. So whenever the graph is updated, because it's usually draw and based on the current state. So you want to, if there is a field that doesn't need to, when it's changed, doesn't need to be undo recorded, then you should put it into uh, ignore modify notice. Undo crash. So by all this while we have in CET, or whenever you have like a dev training about CET, we are always saying that snapper contains snapper is a strongly not recommended implementations. So don't do that. In the later on today's presentation, there are a child snapper that is okay, but not snapper to a snapper field. That is strongly not recommended. Snapper should connect, so should refer to another snapper through connectors. For example, a table has a field that refers to a tested chair that is not a good implementation. The reason for that is that in the undo system, when you are perform a undo, let's say the table is going to change. So you record a change for the table, but it can be the chair is no longer there, or it can be like two of these snapper has the different state. So let's say table is alive, chair is dead, or chair is dead but table is alive. Then you have reference to a dead snapper. So they can't go into the undo recording together, because the is in the undo chain we have a very strict control of only the alive one can be stored in the undo chain. So it's not recommended to do that way. If don't do that, if you must do a direct reference, then you need to call this update replace to make sure your undo restore action just can be performed correctly. So when you have an undo crash, it's very often very common that you see that the system going to complain something is dead or something is alive. It's going to complain the state of the snapper is incorrect. So in general, active, it means that it's normal, alive, belong to a space. Suspense is that it still belong to a space, but alive in the undo change. Dead is dead, does not belong to any space. And alive is it means that it's not dead, so it can be active or suspended. Don't means it's already removed. So an active snapper should never refer to any inactive snapper, and suspended snapper should never refer to active and dead. So let's try to see that in actions. So let's say I insert to snapper, and then so let's say someone let's select something. So someone make a very bad code somewhere that it remove a snapper without undo. So just now I put in two table, let's dump the undo step again. So in the change, it's going to know that two snapper is being inserted, and then I do some selections. So that doesn't matter. So two of this snapper is being inserted. So they're stored like a state in the operations. So and I make a code to remove one of it, the selected one, without undo. So then something is okay. Something is removed. I put 2. Now it's 1, and then let's dump the undo again. You can see that. You can see here it's going to complain that just now I insert this one, and now the current state of the particular snapper is dead. So if I do undo now, it will get a crash, and it's going to complain that a dead snapper is in the undo operations, because the undo already record the state of the snapper, and it's supposed to be undoable if the snapper is still alive. So you have this. If you have this kind of situation, then you can dump the undo chain to see the state. You'll be able to find like particular snapper state. Then if you do undo, you will have undo problems. So into undo chain, you can also put this undo debug mode to true. If you put that to true, you get a bit more information when this is happening. I think it will show a bit more information about what is state, and then you can check when it's happening. Okay, you can also use other functions like trace references or debug series check consistency to identify the undo problems. And the important tips and tricks when debug undo crash is that usually you will receive a big drawings from a user, and then the user is going to tell you that I have this drawing, and then I made an undo and crash happening. They're sending the logs, and you can see like a snapper is dead, or a snapper is not in the space anymore. It's recorded into the undo step. So what you can do is that you need to minimize the test case to be a repeatable test case. So you have a large drawing, you have to identify what are the snapper is encountered the crash, and if it's possible that you can get some kind of step from the user, what do you do before the undo happen, then you need to create a small test case that is repeatable. Then it will help you to like trace down to a particular functions or methods that is called, and then it's removing something from the space or make a modification to something to the space without modifying the undo system. Then you identify that why is that the snapper state is different into the undo state and the real state. That's how you can track down an undo crash problem. So for more informations, like if you go back and then you have undo crash and you need a bit more help, you can also go to the CET Developer Center. We have a very good undo articles that guide you how to debug undo crash, like how to minimize the case, how to trace the state, and where to find the tracing flags, and also how to use the trace references to debug the change of referencing. That's all I have.